All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our friends joining us wherever they happen to be in the world. My name is Terry Godwald. I'm the national representative for the College Board in Canada in snowy. It is a little cold, but not bad. Last week we got down to, I think I was telling you, Matthew, that it was minus 46. And that is centigrade. And it doesn't even make a difference if that's translated to Fahrenheit, because when it gets that cold, it's the same. Matthew, what about you? Where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from sunny Washington, D.C., capital of the United States. Beautiful sunny day here.
And is it below freezing?
No, not at all. It is, I guess, sorry, I don't know Celsius. I think we're in the 40s today.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that would be a good one. Now, now I do know a couple of answers of the SAT, but one of them I do not know is, do they include conversions from centigrade to Fahrenheit?
I do not believe so, but we wouldn't ask you on the SAT to have memorized the conversion rate either.
Oh, perfect. That's a good one to know. Well, friends, we are super excited to have you joining us here today. We're going to be sharing something that I got a kick at the can at just a few months ago when I ran through a practice of the new digital SAT. And I'm thrilled to be able to share a little bit about the context, but Matthew is going to be diving deep and going to be telling us and demonstrating for us the work that's going on. So once again, my name is Terry Godwalt. I'm the National Representative, the Director of Advanced Placements and College Board Programming in Canada. And Matthew?
I am Matthew Shavanik. I am the director on the international team for the Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey.
Brilliant. Now, friends, this is not meant to be watching a television channel. This is meant to be interactive. We want to hear from you. We want to have your questions. And so we do have the chat, which is going right there, which we would encourage you to post your questions. And we already see that Sukrab has posted one, that we're going to be getting to those and answering them throughout the event. We won't be acknowledging them during, because we just have so much content to get through. We'll have a short Q&A at the end of this, though, in which we'll address some of those others. Those of you who are joining us on YouTube, because it was a very full session here today, we're going to be sharing your questions through the email channel there. So please do feel free to post those as we go. So let's talk about the digital SAT. Friends, although there are some things that are changing, there is a good portion that is staying the same. It will continue to measure your knowledge and skills that matter most for university and college readiness. Digital SAT will still be a score on a 1600 scale, and same as the current paper and pencil exam. So that's not going to be changing. So if you wrote it before, and or if someone you know wrote it before and got their score out of 1600, we will be having the same on this version here. The digital SAT will still be administered in a test center and with a proctor present, not at home. So some of you who wrote the AP exams or may have heard of those being written at home, that will not be the case. As we are running this, you will need to make your way to a test center, which are once again all over the world. And we're excited to be hosting you in the country that you are coming from. We have world-class practicing that's available, and that's through Khan Academy. So for you to be able to go online to access the free practicing, which is aligned with the AP, with the SAT assessment. So you're going to be able to know exactly what you need to practice, how to practice it, and to get that and to get those responses and that help right there for you. And we will continue to be supporting students on and throughout this. We have students who have reached out and will be reaching out. And when it comes to accommodations, friends, we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to write the assessment, to sit for the assessment, and in a way that's appropriate for their learning. So what has changed? Because there have been some changes. This isn't just a matter of taking something that has worked well on paper and pencil and putting it into the digital. It is there are some changes that have brought this into to make sure that it's ready for you in the future that you're going to be living in. The digital SAT will be more secure and flexible. Each student will be writing a unique test form. Now, I'm going to go into some details about what exactly that means. But what you are writing will not be the same as what is sitting in a student beside you. Students will take the SAT suite of assessments on a laptop or tablet. Starting March 2023, for international students, there will be no more assessments written on paper. It will be available through tablet or through the laptop. The SAT will be shorter. It'll be done in 2 hours, about 2 hours instead of 3, which is significant in terms of the amount of stress that can attach, because it is a little bit, we want to make sure that you're able to express your knowledge and at the same time have a reliable score that's being communicated to those colleges and universities you're looking to apply for. Calculators will be allowed throughout the entire exam. So there isn't a section, as there was in the past, that was no calculator and a section that had the calculator. This is allowed through the entire math section. International students will have access to 2 additional SAT administrations each year, starting when we launch in 2023. And we've added those administrations in both June and November. So let's dive a little bit deeper into those test dates that we have. So the first date is coming up just a few months away. Wow, look at that, less than 3 months away. March 11th, 2023. The registration deadline is February the 24th, 2023, but you can register now, right? And so the second administration in the first half of the year is on May 6th. And then the third administration, which is a new one, is available on June the 3rd. And you'll note, friends, that right here is the website address, the URL, where you are able to sign in and register for your exam. So let's look a little bit about what those exams look like, and then we're going to pass it over and go through a demo of it ourselves at a glance. So in the past, we had 96 total questions that were being asked, and that were divided into 2 sections. Right now, we're looking at a total of 54 questions that are going to be asked, 1 for each section. In the past, you only had 1 minute and 4 seconds to answer each question. Now you're looking at a total of 1 minute and 14 seconds. So you have additional time for you to answer the questions. The next is that we used to have a set-based questions. Now we have discrete questions. So what do we mean by that? So rather than you having sets of questions that are associated with large passages, now a single question is associated with each passage. So instead of having several questions that you had to read over a large text, now you can simply go from one answer to one question that's there. Let's take a look at the math. All right, so in the past, we had a section for calculators and no calculators. Now we have a section where now we have fewer questions and we have calculators that are available throughout. It used to be 80 minutes, which gave you 1 minute and 38 seconds per question. Now we have 70 minutes, giving you 1 minute and 54 of 1.59 minutes per question. So once again, we had a larger section that was based for multiple choice. And again, using those set-based questions, now we have questions that are related, one passage to a question. There's a larger percentage of student-produced responses, giving you a more chance to express your knowledge. Now, as you prepare for that, the resources, friends, are better than they really have ever been. So the test preview is available for you through your College Board account. So once you set that up, as we shared, you're able to do a test preview and get familiar with the different tools that we'll be using. You're going to see those today as Matthew goes through them. There are four full-length practice exams. Right. So you'll be able to go through these and you'll be able to see around where you scare. And here's the great part. You can take this knowledge that you have and you're going to be able to head across to Khan Academy, in which you can view videos, you can read articles, examples on what to expect from the digital digital SAT that are free. Everybody has access to them. They have been developed by Khan Academy and in close association with the College Board. So this isn't something someone has made flying by on their own. This is something that we have come together to create for you to make sure that you are as prepared as you can possibly be. And lastly, before I hand it over to Matthew, friends, I just want to encourage you to go out, to download the app. And so you can start practicing. You can get familiar with what you need to know so that you are ready to go and you're able to be ready to start as early as March and get that on the go. So here's the website that you would use in order to do exactly that. Well, that is everything on my side, Matthew. They didn't come here to listen to me, but rather they came here to take a look at a live demo and to see what this is going to look like. So
Great.
I'll pass it over to Matthew. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Terry. Terry shared a lot of information. A lot of it we're going to see firsthand today. So again, there's no reason for you to have taken notes. If you want, you can follow along with me on your computer right now. I'm going to show you how to go from google.com or from any browser all the way to practicing for the test and registering for it. So the first step that we're going to want to do is just go to sat.org/digital. And this is where you're going to want to go for everything that you need for the digital SAT, including what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Blue Book testing app. So if you are chatting with your friends, you'll use WhatsApp. If you're using your email, maybe you'll have a Gmail app on your computer. Well, this is the app that you're going to do for all things SAT from now on. So what you will do is just when you go to the digital SAT website, you can go here to download Blue Book, or you can use the link that Terry shared. This will take you to the place on our website where you can download it. So you can download Blue Book if you have Windows or a Mac laptop, if you have an iPad, or if you have a school-managed Chromebook. So I am working on a Mac laptop today, so it's going to show me that I'm downloading this to the Mac OS. So I would click on this, I would open it up in the App Store, and just like I would download Candy Crush or Minecraft, I'm going to download Blue Book. So I already have done that. So I can now just open up my app, and I will do that in a jiffy. Where is it? Oops. Sorry, 1 second. And it is opening right now. And here is Blue Book. So as Terry mentioned, you will be practicing for the SAT on your own computer, or your friend's computer, or your family's computer, if you need one. You will bring this exact same device, this tablet or this laptop with you, and you will take the test using the same exact app, Blue Book. So the practice and the preview that we're showing you today is as close to the real thing as you can possibly get, which is really, really nice. So once you have downloaded Blue Book, you're going to sign in with your College Board account. College Board account is the sign up that you have if you've ever done anything with PSAT or AP or Big Future. You'll be using a College Board account. Those things are all linked. If you don't have one, you can sign up for it using Blue Book. It's pretty straightforward. It's free. We just need some basic information about you, what high school you went through, to go to, things like that. So we'll sign in. Now, I, just like you guys will be doing, I took the SAT test to practice. So I have my very own student login. And so I can log in now, and I can get to the practice area. Whoops. 1 second. Talking and typing at the same time. Uh-oh. I'm a student. One last time. Here we go. So now I am inside of the Bluebook app. And when we come here, there are two important pieces. There is the test preview and there is full-length practice. And I'm going to explain what the difference is between these two things. But these are the two great ways to get yourself familiar with the new digital SAT test and to begin practicing. So if you are a student, you will have access to 4 full-length tests, like Terry said. If you are an educator, you work at the test center, you're a teacher, you will be able to see the test preview, but you won't have access to the full-length practice. So I have a student account, so I can see this. So the test preview that we have here is to show you all of the special things that the digital SAT offers you. What does it look like? What do the questions look like? What are the tools that you have in order to take the test? And we're going to look at that in just a second. The full-length practices are almost identical to the exact digital SAT test that you will take in March. There's a timer. It has as many questions as the digital SAT does. It's arranged into the sections like it is, and it's adaptive. So it's as close to real practice as you could possibly get. If some of your friends ask you, I think I want to take the digital SAT, what should I use to practice? This is exactly what you should use, okay? So away we go. Let us take a look. I'm going to zoom this up a little bit bigger, and let us take a look at what test preview has to show us. So this is a place that you come to explore the new Bluebook app. And this is a place where you can take your time. So this is not a time test. This is really a place for you to explore. It's like if you get a new bicycle, you want to click the bell, see if it works. You want to check the brakes. You want to see how the gears work. This is the same thing. We're seeing exactly all of the bells and whistles, as we say, of the digital SAT test. There's a lot of things here that can help you and really benefit you do better on the test. So it is good for you to learn how to use them. And we also have assistive technology. So some accommodations that are going to be different on the digital test than they were on the paper and pencil test. So if you were approved to use a human reader on the paper and pencil test, you'll probably have a screen reader for the digital test. So when I am in here, I'm on a Mac computer, I can highlight text, I can press Control Escape, and it will read to me the passage. So that is an accommodation already built in here. Another one that I'm just going to show you right now, an example of the accommodations that we have, is zooming. So I can zoom in and I can make the screen bigger. I can make it smaller just by pressing Control minus or Control plus. It's going to be different if you're on a Mac. If you're on a tablet like an iPad, you'll actually just pinch it to zoom in. So it changes a little bit. But for all of those shortcuts, if you play a lot of video games online, I'm sure you're very familiar with shortcuts and key shortcuts. They're all available here under More. So you can go back through a question. You can go to the next question. You can open or close the directions. You can show the timer. You can zoom in and zoom out like we said. So here I am on a Mac. So now I look at Mac to zoom in, Command plus. Voila. That's how I would do that. Okay. So it is very helpful to know these different shortcuts to help you navigate around the test faster. Great. So here we are. This is it. This is what the new digital SAT test looks like. We are in the reading and writing section. The digital SAT has 2 sections. The first one is going to be reading and writing. The second one is going to be for mathematics. We have some very nice tools in this section so that you can really engage with this reading text. The first thing that you'll see, and Terry explained this already, I don't know about you, but for me, this is a pretty short text. Oops. I can zoom in this close and it's just this one sentence here. It doesn't necessarily make it any easier. It's still challenging things that we're going to be asking you about the question, but it is so that you only have to answer one question with all the answers there, and you can see it at the exact same time as the reading passage that we're showing. So, and then let me show you what a couple of the other questions look like. So they can get a little bit longer. Sometimes there'll be an introduction, and then there'll be a reading passage. This is from fiction. This here is a description of a scientific study. These are two different texts that you are going to be comparing and doing something with them, between them. Here is filling in, this is an introduction to a poem, and then the choice answers are actually a poem. So what I want to show you here is that they're very diverse, all of the different types of questions that we're asking you for the reading and writing. It can be about science, it can be about sociology, it can be about poetry. And sometimes it's actually going to be a chart that you're going to be interpreting. So there's a lot of different types of questions here. So once we have these reading questions here, we want to interact with the text, and we want to see how it is. So what are some of the tools that I have for that? Well, the first one is I can annotate this text. What do I mean by that? Let's say I'm reading this selection and I want to focus in on the main idea. Okay. Posture can influence cognition. Okay, I think that's like the main subject of this text. So let me go ahead and annotate this, and I can highlight it or I can underline it. And then I can even add a note, main idea, and I can save it. So when I highlight, I put my cursor over it or I touch it when I'm on an iPad, voila, it shows it actually for me. So this is a really great way that you can study a text, leave notes for yourself. If you need to come back later, you have a thing that you can look at. So this is a very nice tool for reading texts. Great. So what about when we're actually choosing the answer for this text? Let's say we have this question. There's a lot to read. There's a lot going on. I think that I've got a pretty good idea of which choice best states the main purpose of this text, but I'm not 100% sure yet. So I'm going to press this button here, and I'm going to cross out the answers that I know are wrong. So I'm pretty sure it's not going to be A. It's gone. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be C. It's gone. I'm going to zoom out here so you can see everything at once. So now I've done this, but I'm down to 50% of the choices between one or the other. I can't decide yet. I don't know which answer it is going to be, but that's fine. I'm going to mark it for review. And that's going to give me a little flag that I can come back to later and remind myself, you haven't finished this question. You need to answer this before you pass on. Okay. So now I go through the questions. Okay, this one, I think this is the answer. Brazen tongue declare. Let's see, anticipation. That's an idea that I want to highlight there. I want to say regretful inflection, anticipation, regretful inflection. These are the two things I want to focus on. I'm just going to highlight them. I think that's the answer. I'll come back. Maybe I can mark that for review. I'm just showing you guys what it looks like as you're kind of going through this test. You do not need to answer every single question in order and be 100% sure that that's the answer. You can do it in the order that you want. You can leave some behind. You can mark things for whether you want to cross them out. You know what? I think that is the answer. So then we're going back here. Once you have finished the section, like I just did right here, you will come to this screen and it will show you everything that you've done so far. So these are some questions that I haven't answered because they are unanswered here. There's two that I have to go back and review. I've answered them, but I haven't picked an answer yet. And then I can come back here to the review page and I can work away and I can get down to it. So oftentimes you'll take a test and you will really get to a question that really makes you want to scratch your head. You're not sure what the answer is. That's fine. You can move on and come back later if and when you have time to do it. Okay, so this is one of the things that makes the test much less stressful, is this ability to move around inside of the module for the questions that you're doing. Okay, so that's a little bit of what the reading and writing section looks like. So now let's move on without any time here. We're just checking things out. We're plugging in answers. We're poking around and seeing what we've got, and we're learning about the tools that are available here. So that's what we're doing here in this test preview section. Now I'm on the math section. The tools are a little bit different. So there's a lot of information here. There's specifically some information about what you're going to do for student-produced responses, which I'll explain in a minute. But again, think about you're there on the test day in March. You don't want this to be the first time that you're reading all this information. You want to be really familiar with this information before you ever get there. This is the exact same stuff that's going to be written on the actual test. Be familiar with it. Know about everything that we're asking and how the things are going to be organized and what are all the tools months and months before you ever even take the test. That's what we're making it possible for you to do now. Okay. So this is basically just letting us know how we're going to be answering these questions. And then voila, here I am in the math section. Math section is going to have some equations. It's going to have some word problems. So here's a word problem. Sometimes it's going to have graphs, or it'll even have geometric figures. And as you can see, again, it's really nicely laid out on this app. You have the question, you have the information that you need to read, and you have the answers all available at the same time that you can see really nicely, okay? But that's not all. We have other tools. We still have the selecting, crossing out answers if you're unused to them, or if you're not sure which one's the right answer. You can still mark for review like you do in the other section, but we have two other really nice tools. The first is a built-in calculator. Now, you can bring your own physical calculator to the test center on the day of the test if you want. When I took the SAT last week, I used an outside calculator. It's just what I'm used to. I'm an old guy, you know? You can also use scratch paper and a pencil for the test. But this built-in calculator is fantastic. It has a lot of great tools that I'll show you now that'll make it really, really helpful for you when you're answering these questions, okay? So the first thing that we can do is we can just do a simple math equation. So for example, if I wanted to know, what is 89 times 7? 623. Nice. Now, one of the great things about this is if I'm doing a math problem that has several things that I need to figure out. So now that I have 623, I also need to figure out what 5 times 6 is. That's 30. And then look, I can actually go back and, I can go back and see both of these answers. So when it comes time to answer the third question, okay, so what I needed to do for this problem was to add 623, the result of my first math problem, and then 5 times 6, the 31 at the same. So you can see multiple ones at the same time. And then I don't need to put the X there. 653 is my final answer. So you can see multiple things at the same time, which is a really, really nice feature of this calculator. Another nice feature of this calculator, I'm going to close this out and open it up again so I get a fresh calculator, is the graphing calculator aspects of it. So there's a lot here with that are more complicated than you're possibly going to need for the types of questions that we're asking you on the SAT, but there's going to be some things for which this will be very useful. And let me just show you one example. Let's say you need to find where two linear equations intersect. Okay, so let's say, for example, I need to know where y equals 3x plus 2. Oh my gosh, it shows up automatically on my graph. How cool is that? But I also need to figure out, I need to map out y equals 5x plus 3. And voila, wouldn't you know it, I can now minimize this and see the graph nice and clearly, all of the screen. I now have this graph. I can zoom out and I can see these two linear equations that are aligned. Not only that, I can zoom in and see the point at which they intersect. And wouldn't you know, there is my coordinates right there. How nice is that? I can see where the y-intercept is. I can see where the x-intercept is. So this is a fantastic tool for the part of the test where you may be asked questions about linear equations or other types of equations that you'll be graphing, okay? Fantastic. So that's some of the things that are really cool about the calculator. Just a couple other things here. You can delete all of these if you want. Here's even more stuff for accommodations if you need to have this be in dark, if you need Braille mode. So again, there's way more things, bells and whistles in this calculator than we have time to go over this morning, this afternoon, this evening. But I encourage you to download Bluebook, take a look, find out what's useful for you. When you start practicing, you're going to have all of this available to you. Okay. I want to go here to question 3 because I want to show you what it's like when we're not asking you for a multiple choice question, a multiple choice answer. We need you to type in the answer yourself. So they're asking the y-intercept of this graph, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We want to know the value of y. So let's say, for example, and this will be how I'll show you what we mean by this. Let's say, for example, the answer that you come up with for the value of y in this question is going to be 1.25. Now, that's the way that we can write it as a decimal. How would we write this as a fraction? Terry, math wizard? it would be 1 1/4. And I asked Terry because he's the one who gave me this example because he's much better at math than I am. So let's say I was going to type in 1 1/4, which would be the equivalent of 1.25. Do you see the problem? It puts out the answer as 11/4. That is not the answer that we want to put. So there are some tricky things here when it comes to fractions, when it comes from decimals, how many decimal places you get, whether you're using negative numbers and things like that. So here are the rules of what we accept and what we don't accept as these student-produced responses. I encourage you to look through these answers and through the practice to figure this out so that you can make sure that you're always typing in 1.25 and not 11/4, okay? And then we have one last thing that I wanted to show you guys, and that is a reference chart. So let's say you did well in geometry, but you weren't the kind of person who remembered exactly Pythagoras' theorem. You know it exists, you know it's important, and if you saw it, you could use it if you needed to, but you didn't actually memorize it. But that's okay for the SAT test because it's right here. If you open up this little reference sheet, it's going to have all of the most important geometric relationships here for you. Special triangles, cylinders, everything like that. So let's say, for example, I needed to figure out the hypotenuse for a right-angled triangle. Okay, so I've got this, I know that this equation here, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's really going to help me out. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because at the same time, I also want to use my calculator. So let's say, for example, it was 2 squared plus 3 squared equals 13. That would be the length of my hypotenuse squared. So I would need the square root of 13. So then I would write 13 square root, other way around, square root of 13, and that should give me the hypotenuse. I'm not very good at math, but you can see my point. This is where the reference sheet is and where the calculator is. You can use both of them at the same time. You can move them around any way that you want. You can close them or move them to the side. Okay, so that's some of the features that you have available for the test preview, and I urge you to take a look and practice them with yourself. Go to the review page. I've only answered one question. I've had a difficult time. That's fine. Then I'm going to finish up, and it's going to take me to the screen that we all want to see when we have finished the digital SAT. This smiling face on a laptop with confetti. This is the symbol that you have successfully uploaded your test and finished. Okay, so that was the first part of what we wanted to show you today. That was the test preview. That was to give you a sense of all of the things that are in the test, all of the tools that you have, and how to navigate around and to mark for review and all those types of things. But that's not all that we offer through Bluebook right now. You can also take full-length practice tests. So when you take a full-length practice test, it's going to be timed, and it's going to have as many questions are in the actual SAT test. And it's going to have not just those 8 questions of reading and writing, but 2 sections of 27 questions each. So there's going to be a lot for you to practice with. And there's going to be 4 different tests that you can take. So let me go here into, take a full-length practice test. And like we said, there's 4 for you to choose from, and you can take each of those 4 as many times as you'd like. I'm going to take SAT Practice 4. I don't need any accommodations, so I'm going to do this, and it's going to set it up for me. If you want, you can sit at your home, you can take 2 hours of your time with no distractions, and you can take this test exactly like you would do on the regular, on the test day. Or you can take it with as much time as you want. There will be a timer, but you can exit out and you can save it and exit and come back when it is that you need to. So maybe you want to practice a little bit before school. Maybe you're doing it on your lunch break. That's all totally fine, but you can also take it as a full test. So here I am now in the real simulated test. And this is exactly what it looks like when you actually take the digital SAT test in March. You have a timer here showing you exactly how much time you have left for this module. There are 2 modules for the 2 sections. So there's going to be these 27 questions for module 1, and then there'll be another 27 questions for module 2. And then I'll go into section 2, and that's the mathematics section. Okay. So you can see that here, all of the questions that we have, and you'll basically go through using all of the tools and the tips that I was showing you to be able to take this full test. If you need to get up and use the bathroom, if your mom wants you to take out the garbage, if you need to go to school, you can just click here on more and type save and exit. And it will save your test exactly where you were, and you can leave. Okay, and now I'm back on the main screen of Bluebook. So that's very nice. I have, like I said, I took a practice test. And so now that I can go into my SAT. Oops. Scoring your practice tests. Here we go. My SAT. So I'm going to go to my SAT. Excuse me. So I'll log in here onto my SAT account, which again, I have a student account. So it's going to let me see my score. And then we are going to come here to this main page, and I'm going to show you guys the results of my SAT test. And this isn't only just to show you it, I want to show you the best part about it, which is that I can now see how I did and what questions I got correct and which questions I got wrong. So now I'm here on my SAT, and I can see the score of my SAT practice test. And I can see exactly if I went and had taken the SAT on December 9th, that is the score that I would have gotten because it's the exact same test, the same exact type of questions. So I come in here and I can see how I did on the reading and writing. I can see how I did in the math. And then not only that, I can go and review the test. And I can see every single question, whether or not I got them correct. And if I got them incorrect, I can review them. And there'll be a really nice long explanation detailing exactly why I got the question incorrect and why it was actually something else. So this is a fantastic way to come up with some ideas about what it is that you need to work on. So when we come to the math section, I got several questions wrong. I can come here and check them. I figured out when I was taking this test that I really need some review when it comes to polynomial functions. That is something that I'm really rusty on. It's been 20 years since I was in high school. I could definitely use some practice. So now that I've taken this practice test and I have figured out what it is that I need to work on, what should I do now? I should go to Khan Academy. So I should even show you guys this on the main page. My SAT practice. I'm just going back to the main section here of mysat.com. Excuse me. Oops. And this should take me straight over practice for the SAT. This free SAT practice will take me over to Khan Academy. If I link my College Board account to my Khan Academy account, it is going to pull up exactly the things on my SAT practice that I didn't do well on that I need to work on. And it's going to give me like really, really nice personalized practice. But what I can also do is I can go here to the new digital SAT test prep. So this is the best place in the entire world to practice for each of the particular skills needed for the SAT. And I can come here. So when I said that on my test, I didn't do so well on polynomial functions, and I'm looking at every time that a polynomial function came up in the SAT test that I was taking, I just didn't get it right. So there it is. Oh, that's not a polynomial function. At least I know what a polynomial function is. It's some here. But regardless, I come over here, I go to advanced math, and wouldn't you know it, factoring quadratic and polynomial expressions. I have a wonderful resource that I can look at to relearn everything that I need to know about polynomial functions, specifically as it pertains to the digital SAT. Okay? I have a nice general explanation of this. I have videos where someone actually takes me through how to do these things. I have all types of practice questions that I can have. You will have so much practice here on Khan Academy. And we have found that if you spend about 20 hours or more practicing on this, there's a good chance that we found on average a student can get up to 115 points higher than they did on the PSAT. So people ask, how can I improve my score? I'm sure somebody has asked already in the Q&A, how can I improve my score? Well, take a practice SAT, find out those skills that you really have opportunity for improvement, and then learn and practice those skills on Khan Academy. That is what we, College Board, the people who make the SAT test, officially recommend, okay? And it's not just practicing the skills that's going to make you better at this, and that it's going to make you be more successful on the SAT. We also know that when a student uses Khan Academy and they use the Blue Book app, they're going to feel less anxious, and they're just going to feel in general that this test isn't as difficult as it looked on the first time that they opened up the app and saw these questions. So the more the time that you spend on this, the more that you're familiar with it, the better of a time you're going to have and the more successful that you'll be. Okay. And we have given you 4 complete tests that you can practice, and we have given you so much resources for relearning and reviewing materials on Khan Academy. The only thing that you need now is to dedicate some time to it. You have 3 months until the digital SAT is available in March. So you've got plenty of time to really beef up and be ready for this test and to be successful on it. And once you've taken it in March, you'll be able to take it again. There'll be 7 times throughout the year that you'll be able to take the SAT test. So the sooner that you take it, if you take it in March, on the very first time that we offer it, that means that you have 6 other times throughout the year that you'll be able to take it, and you'll have plenty of time to make sure that you get the score that you're happy with so that you can apply to colleges. And I am just going to pause here for a second and make sure that I have everything covered before we move to people's questions. One thing I've not covered is how you actually register for this test. So if I am back on Blue Book, I can, if I'm on my SAT homepage, I can register for the test right here. And this will take you directly to it. And you'll be able to sign up for the test. And then once you do, it will show you when your test is upcoming here on Blue Book. So it'll make sure that you have all of the information that you need. Okay? Great. I wish everybody so much luck, and I look forward to hearing from everybody's questions. And yeah, best of luck to everybody.
Thanks so much, Matthew. That was great. It was so helpful to go through and to get all this done. I mean, you were saying that you actually ran the full-length practice in the setup. How did you? How much time do you think a student needs to spend to get all that done and to be prepared to write the practices and be ready to write the exams?
Yeah. So I'll use the video game analogy again. When you first open up a video game, you don't really understand what all the buttons do. If you have a character walking around in a world, it's a little bit hard to move them around in a while. But by the end of 15 minutes, you get it. You figure out how to use this. You understand all of the basic functions of the website. This is way easier than a video game. This is only just has a couple things that I basically showed you everything that is in the app. You can get really comfortable with using this within the time that it takes you to answer these 16 questions on the test prep. You should basically have a pretty good understanding once you've answered these 16 questions of how you use all of this. What are the features that are going to be the most helpful for you specifically, because not everybody is going to be taking this test in the same way. Other people have different strategies. Sometimes people, they just want to answer questions straight through. Sometimes they want to poke around and they want to come back. You're going to find your style once you actually spend some time with this, but it's really not going to take you that long. And then once you do that, like we said, it's about 2 hours that you have to take each of the practice tests. So again, you don't have to necessarily have to do it all in one sitting, but it will take you about 2 hours in total to go through each practice test that you do.
Super. Another question that we have coming up, I think it's because they saw the work that you did and they're like, boy, this doesn't look hard. But a quite common question was, is it easier than the old SAT? It seems to be so easy to set it up and to get it going. Does that mean the test itself is easier and I'll get higher grades?
So the test, the test is going to be the exact same level of difficulty that the paper and pencil version is, because we have studied it. We had students take the paper test, we had them take the digital test, and they got the same scores on them. So we have done a lot of work to make sure that even though this test feels less stressful and it feels easier, it's still the same level of rigor and difficulty that it was before. So you have more time for each of these questions. You don't feel like you're sprinting, that you're doing, that you're in a race. You feel much more comfortable as opposed to the older test in terms of how much time you have to answer and think about all these questions. But they are some very challenging questions, and they cover a lot of skills. You'll be able to see exactly what those skills are when you go into Khan Academy. So there's going to be no surprises. You're going to know exactly what's expected to be on the test before you get there, but there's a lot of different things that this can possibly cover. And even though the English section, the reading and writing section, they're much shorter passages now, they're passages about everything from geology to pottery to economics. So even though we're not asking maybe the world's most difficult words, there's going to be a lot of really challenging text, and it's going to really benefit you to be as comfortable and familiar with them before the test as possible.
Another question that was asked, you talked about it briefly, and we won't be able to go into great detail there, Matthew, but it was just talking about how are they going to be able to have a unique form of test that's available for all students?
Sure. So the way that it works is that because it's on a computer, within each module, you are not going to see the same questions in the same order as the students who are sitting directly next to you. So if you are on question 5 and you're like, I'm stumped, I'm just going to peek over here and look at my friends next to me, what they got for question 5, that's not going to help you because their question 5 is not going to be your question 5. And then the second module on each of these sections is actually going to be custom to you based on how you answered in the first section. So there's even more opportunities for the test to be unique to you. And so that is kind of why we think of it as a totally unique test. Oh, Terry, I think you're muted.
Thanks. Another question that the students have is the SAT digital as acceptable as paper and pencil SAT for colleges?
Yes, absolutely. So like I said, we did a lot of work to make sure that the test score was the same, it meant the same thing on the paper and pencil version and on the digital version. So I've spoken to colleges, and we let them know exactly, how this is going to shake out, how it is the same, and they're going to recognize it, as exactly the same test as before. And there shouldn't be any discrimination of saying like, well, this is a digital test, we can't really think of it as the same thing as a paper. It should be considered as exactly the same test, just in a new format, based on all the work that we've done to make sure that the score means the same thing.
Super, Matthew. I think we're gonna get more than 300 questions.
Great.
As they're coming in. Friends, we're not gonna obviously have time to answer all of these questions. There will be a recording that will be released so that you'll be able to watch this again and get many of the questions that are being asked are actually within the presentation. So you can kind of go back over it again and hear and see for yourselves where your question may have been answered that we haven't been able to get to over the course of the time that we're together. But we're also going to be sharing some links in which you'll be able to take a look and get that content, get those questions answered for yourself. But please do feel free to reach out. We'll also be sharing some emails that you can reach out to and get some answers to the questions that you have and are able to get. Another question that the students have is that how often are they able to write the test? Yeah,
so they're going to be, the sun just showed up. Let me just move this here. I'm going to direct sun in my face. There's going to be 7 opportunities to take the test throughout the year internationally. And a student is free to take the test as many times as they want. They can submit the scores that they want to universities. So, it's kind of just up to the student how many times they want to sit it.
Perfect. So we have lots of questions about calculators and which calculators are allowed. One student said that she had a friend who said that their calculator was not allowed. Friends, I'm going to share a link here that talks specifically about calculators, And some calculators can be connected to the internet. And so we're not going, you can't bring a calculator. There are calculators on our phone that aren't allowed, but we have a specific list of calculators, which are most of the calculators you'd be able to use in your math classes themselves. And for the tests, you're going to be writing with the teachers. But it's important that you take a look at that. And but some of them have panels that are kind of raised, and that would mean that a person beside you might be able to see it. So there are lots of little details about the calculators, but for the most part, you'll be able to find all the answers you need right on that link, and we'll throw that up here for you right away. And yes. Matthew, as you scroll through the hundreds and hundreds of questions, are there any ones that jump out at you?
Let's see here. So a question is, what grade should students be able to start thinking about practicing on Blue Book? Can they begin practicing in 9th grade? Should they wait until the end of 10th grade? So everybody is a little bit different. And when they take the test, usually students are taking it in their 11th and 12th grade. If you have a lot of people hear the word SAT, and maybe it makes them feel a little bit stressed out. They don't know what that means. They're a little bit, there's a lot of anxiety about, I'm trying to move here so that I'm not completely drowned by the sun. The best way to get over any of the initial anxiety that you may have over the test, just download it and take a look at it. So whether you're in the 9th grade or whether you're in the 12th grade, the best time to just get a sense of what it is that we're talking about when we say the SAT is just take a look at the free Blue Book app yourself. So that's what I would recommend. There's a lot of, if something's leading up to it several years down the future, the best way to dispel any of that fear is to take a look at it yourself. And there was one question that I will ask. So in terms of the devices, we said that it's going to be your own device. It can also be a friend's device, or it can be a family member's device. You don't have to actually own that device in order to use it. What we will say is that if you're unable to borrow a device, or if you don't have a device yourself, we at College Board will work with you in order to send you a device to the test center that you're going to take the test at. We ask that if this is something that you genuinely do need, that you please contact us and start the process of requesting a loaner device as soon as possible, because it is a little bit of paperwork that you have to fill out, and it does take us a little bit of effort to send the device to a test center internationally. So it would probably definitely be easier and more convenient for you to just borrow a device for the day of the test, but you also want to make sure that you have the opportunity to practice with the Blue Book app and to feel comfortable with it before the day of the test.
Another question we had is, are students allowed to bring in their own scratch paper? So this is paper for you to do some work on the side. Although you are not allowed to bring in your own scratch paper, that the test facilitators, the people at the test site, will be able to provide you with a number of sheets for you to work and do do that work.
Great, yeah. And I most certainly, when I took the SAT last week, used scratch paper extensively. So this is something that'll definitely be useful to you for the actual day of the test.
And there was a lot of questions about.
Yeah, I know. I want to make sure that we're trying to answer at least some of them, but there's kind of too many to go through here.
Another question the students have is they're debating when they should write it. Should they write it in March? Should they write it in June? Should they write? There's so many dates that are there. What do you have any recommendation for when they should and why they might want to write earlier rather than later?
Yeah, so a lot of times students aren't really sure how they're going to score on the test the first time around. Maybe sometimes they can feel really, really prepared for it, but then the actual day of the test ends up being, something goes wrong. Maybe they're not feeling the best. Maybe they blank on it. So the earlier that you do take the test, the more of a runway you're going to give yourself in order to take the test later, if in fact you want to or need to. But that being said, you have lots of great practice now that's available. So you kind of, when you feel ready and you have really improved on the skills that you think that you're going to be able to, that's probably the best time for you to do it. But the one thing that I would say is don't take the SAT without ever having looked at the Blue Book app once or ever having done any practice. You should definitely take the SAT for real once you've had the time to practice.
That's so true, Matthew. When I went through it in Canada, it's not as common for students to write the SATs. And so I never wrote it when I was going through high school. But I think you said this really well, that it took me about 15 minutes on the practice, and I didn't do the full length practice exam. I just did a shorter length, but it took me about 15 minutes of doing that until I was like, okay, I know where the tools are. I know I can feel that I can navigate this. It's not something that you need to spend months and months and months preparing. I would say on my side, the earlier the chance I have to sit down and just do it. Get a feel for it, because it's so easy. It only takes 2 hours in and out and you're done. The earlier chance you have to go in and try it and see how it goes and know that, okay, this isn't the only time I have to do it. And I know $60 and plus each of the different regions have some additional fees that are there. That is a lot of money, but for you to be able to be able to do it and give it a shot, and then to go back and do it again, I would say the earlier you do it, the better. And it'll give you more opportunities there. But like Michael says, I wouldn't want to write it without doing some practice beforehand.
The thing that I just want to say really quickly that had been coming up in the questions a little bit was downloading the app before the test. So you can go through exam setup 5 days before the test. And then that is when you'll also have your admission ticket to the exam. So although you can register for the SAT now and you can practice for the SAT, it's going to be 5 days before you kind of see the final steps for being admitted and having your ticket.
Great. And the last question as we wrap up our time here is, Matthew, if they didn't, we mentioned this briefly, but one last time, if they feel that they'd like to watch this presentation again, how might they do that?
Sure. So we are going to have a recording sent to everybody who registered, and then we'll also have it available on YouTube for students to be able to stream.
Brilliant. Holy cats, Matthew, we have over 400 questions. And I apologize that as Matthew was presenting, I was doing my best to answer as many as I possibly could. But there are a lot of answers the questions that have not been asked. And as Matthew said, many of the answers are actually in the presentation. We'll be sharing additional links that you'll be able to find those answers too. You'll also be able to reach out and get some of those answers. Have your SAT administrators at your school will have many of these answers. They have training that they are able to take as well. So we highly recommend you use all those resources that you have so that you feel as prepared as you possibly can in order to write this. Matthew, I had a wonderful time today. Thank you for going through this Blue Book presentation for us, and looking forward to continue to support all the schools in Canada. And if you happen to be from elsewhere and reach out, I'd love to help you as well. But Matthew, I'll pass it over to you for the final word.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for coming and taking a look. I hope that you have a really nice time using it. It's a fun app to use, and it'll really make you feel less stressed and ready for this test. And if you have your questions, you're probably going to find the answer just poking around on Blue Book yourself.
Excellent. All right. Well, it was wonderful connecting to you all briefly this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it happens to be in your part of the world. And we look forward to connecting to you again soon.
Thank you so much, everybody.